And welcome to another weekend preview. I'm joined by the legend that is Jamie Wren. We're going to be covering the Ladbrokes Winter Carnival 2-day meeting, Friday, Saturday. Bit of Newcastle for the fighting fifth and a novice hurdle that I like there. And then also we'll have to be looking at Fairyhouse with all the grade ones they've got on show on Sunday. Jamie, what are you most excited about for this weekend?
Well, I suppose I want to see Dave, the champion hurdler, Honeysuckle. We'll see now how good she is. I always say about mares, the longevity with all of them. We'll see. But look, there's a good field there on Sunday. We'll get into that afterwards. But I just want to see Honeysuckle, obviously. Yeah.
Boom. And fingers crossed, you might be going there, mightn't you, on Sunday? So you might actually see her in the flesh.
Hopefully now, Dave. We'll see her in the flesh. I'll take a picture of you.
Nice, thank you. Well, I'm going to be at Newbury for both of days, the Friday and the Saturday. Well, to be confirmed.
For bad English racing, is that?
It's all right for the English racing, to be fair. Everyone's going to moan about the field sizes, aren't they? But it is what it is. The right horse is the right
horse there.
And the wrong ones aren't there for the right reasons. So we'll kick off with the first race at Newbury, 12-10s and novices hurdle. Stage star for Paul Nicholls was pretty impressive at Chepstow. You've got King Cardine for Nicky Henderson and the Queen. He's talked about this one, saying that it looks like a nice runner that he's got for the Queen. And then, without being rude to the rest of the field look a bit of a much for muchness. Bumpy Johnson sort of threatened to show some proppies, but looks a bit of an awkward horse, and I don't think he's that good. Speaking of I don't think that's good, I don't think King Cardine's any good either, so I reckon Stage Star will just win this.
I'm with Bumpy Johnson here, definitely. One, what's it, Sirocco Joe beat him last day, and Sirocco Joe's not a bad horse, but it's Newbury. I know what you mean, like fucking, what's his name? Sirocco Joe was beating an 8-13 at Lingfield the last day. But look, I like course and distance horses, like Cheltenham, course and distance horses. So I go with Bumpy Johnson here for the crack to beat the two.
Yeah, fair enough. I think Stage Star, probably got a run to maybe 130s to win this with the penalty that it's carrying. You'd think after the Chepstow performance, it could be there or thereabouts. But for these hurdlers having their second starts, to run a number of 130s isn't really an easy feat. So we'll move on from that. It's not that exciting a race. There is a 4-runner novices chase after. It's a 2.5 miler. It's a nice race. I always like this race every single year. And this year's renewal looks pretty decent. Every horse has probably got a chance if you look at the market. I liked Nassalam's performance and his win at Ascot because he did a lot wrong jumping out to the left, but going left-handed at Newbury should suit. And obviously the time of year that it is, he still gets a nice weight for age allowance. I think the crucial thing to talk about in here is if we look at official figures, like official ratings, doesn't necessarily mean that's true, but Nassalam gets some weight in here, so he's getting off of T Clipper a stone, so you can add £14 to his 145 rating. He's 159. Miller's Bank gets £5, that puts him on 158. Pickdor, he also gets 5, puts him on 157. So they're 157, 159, 158 in respect to T Clipper, who's a 149 horse on his rating. So basically, T Clipper's got his work cut out to go and win this, but I do think T Clipper's going to be a much better horse over fences than he was over hurdles. I was impressed with his debut, but all that said, I think Nassalam at almost 3-1. I know he's a bit of an idiot, isn't he? But I just think he's just too big a price. I think Nassalam would win this. What about you?
Oh, I'm definitely with Nassalam here, David. All the way for age allowances, yeah, definitely. Miller's Bank. Deal faded. Kadzan there last day and Huntington. I thought Kadzan got a bad ride by Skelton that day. He let Miller's Bank off the rope there. Do you know what I mean? Let him too easy into the straight up in the second last, and he fell. Whatever happened, never like that. Pick Doherty. He's the most overrated Nichols horse. To be honest with you, all the Johnny De La Haye's horses are overrated. Oh, this horse is going to win the Triumph. Like that solo on that day, and the Anderson. I bought into it as well, and then. Your man for the last, he should not be named Sam Crow number 2, Goshen. But look, it's definitely Nassalam for me. You could see in Ascot he was going the other way all the time, going this way all the time. So no, it's Nassalam for me. It's a great price at him before.
And I think as well, he did a lot wrong on that novice chase debut, and I'm a big advocate for it. That I want to see novices make mistakes because they can only improve. Exactly. I'm not saying you don't want a good jumper, but he didn't. He did a lot wrong and still managed to run a good performance. I thought he would have been ended up being like an eye-catching second or something, but yeah, I like his attitude. And I liked him last year as well. He was the Triumph winner, wasn't he?
I can't say nothing, Dave. I was out of the first stream in the Triumph as well, so we'll move on.
Let's not talk about that bit, and I can't be asked to edit it, so the viewers can keep that in. There's a maiden hurdle after this, which is probably one of the most anticipated hurdle debuts for quite a while. John Bon, massive money purchase. Like, to be fair, did like win his bumper nicely. And if you look in behind it, some horses that were a bit further back, I think maybe the thirds come out. And I think it maybe got beaten by like a 120s horse, or maybe it's rated 120s or something like those. But like John Bon's well clear of that. Like it's all for there, like there for all to see. The breeding's there being the brother of Duvan. His bumper performance was pretty good. He did like a nice performance at his point. He's a 4-9 poke for a reason, isn't he? Like he should be winning it, but everyone was cooing about that bumper form, weren't they? Whether I like to move it in there for good risk at all. Everything else in behind came out and won. He was like I don't want to be rude because it isn't like an offense to the trainer or anything, but he was like one of the least trained horses I've ever seen going over a hurdle. At Chepstow, he jumped everything so big, and you know some of them jump them big like they want a fence. This one just looked like he'd never jumped anything before in his life, like it was the first time he'd gone over hurdles. I don't know what it was like at home before that. Sam Twiston-Davies has said that he's been jumping a lot better since. I just think there's enough substance with his bumper form to say that, like, he's at least going to be a very good yardstick for John Bon. But I'd be disappointed if good risk at all, especially with that one spin over hurdles. Like, if he does improve his jumping, I'd be disappointed if he can't run up to like a high 130s number. But John Bon is probably the one to beat. I'm just trying to think of it from like a potential viewing it angle, like what we're going to try and find out from the race. Nothing else in the field is going to have any interest to me at all. But I don't know. I couldn't back John Bon at a short price. I couldn't back good risk at all, given what he did at Chepstow. But I'm very excited to watch the pair of them run. I do think John Bon should be able to hopefully beat good risk at all. But I don't know. What do you think?
He looked professional in his bumper, Dave. He'll beat good risk at all. No question about it. Now, the question is he a Supreme horse or he's a Ballymore horse? Time will tell. I think this is a stepping stone to that. Your bag grade 1 in Newbury, no offense to the English, your bag grade 1 in Christmas time, the Challow hurl. I think this is his race before the Challow. I think he needs further. Might be totally wrong because look, there's plenty in the Supreme. Willie Mullins doesn't even have a horse out yet, so do you know what I mean? But no, John Bon, I mean, he looks like a machine. In a way, could be a bit premature there, but I think this is a stepping stone to Newbury, all right, to the Challow, sorry.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm a big fan of like siblings. I've talked about in a video before about maybe they don't always go and scale the heights at Cheltenham, but like we say, it's not all about Cheltenham, although it is. John Bon, to be fair, looks a beast, and we've only had the one bumper run, so there's not too much to judge him on. But what we can judge him on, he looks good, doesn't he? And we must be due one of these siblings to be a monster, mustn't we? Because you get horses that run that might be 140s, the sibling comes out of it, and then they scale the heights of 160s. You may have just expected them to hit the same sort of number. One of these days, it could happen where Duvan goes and runs like he does, an absolute machine, but he's not even the best one from the breeding. And then if John Bon, like, if he was anywhere near as good as Duvan, it would be unreal anyway. But God forbid he was better than Duvan. Nicky Henderson fans would be going mental, wouldn't they?
We won't be able to see him after, is it?
No, that's it. Yeah, we'll see him run once and that'll be it. There is a very nice novices handicap chase following that, the 150. I think loads of people would have been as well. I was really excited to see that Boots had an entry. When he picked up his handicap mark when he ran at Ascot, he needed another run over hurdles to be able to run in a chase event. He's terribly priced, unfortunately. No two ways about it. Like, I knew he'd be fairly short priced, but when you look at the potential depth in this race, I know you hate the Johnny Delay horses, but Solo was a good enough run with Nassalam, maybe wants a bit further than this. Mr. Coffee, I don't even think he's going to be a better horse over fences, but he probably is better than 138. Another one that maybe wants further. 50 Ball ran so well in that Betfair hurdle behind Soaring Glory that, like, you can't ignore him at this trip. And he's very, very keen when he ran over a further trip last time. Like, they definitely set him up for this. Cascover's not good enough. Lahon Press isn't good enough. Not Available is not good enough. But if you've got four runners in there and Boot Hill's been priced up as like a 13 to 8 poke, like, he should go and win it. I think he's going to be the best horse in the race, and I think he's the best horse at 2 miles, but he's way too skinny a price for me to back. I'm just hoping that because of the way the market's formed, he might drift out a little bit, and then you might get a bit of, I don't know, I'll be exaggerative, you might get something over 2 to 1, and you might better get a bet on him. But I think Boot Hill does win, but I don't think it's as straightforward as the price suggests. What do you make of it?
Well, I agree with you. If next 11 wins, you'd have to think that, like, he's only given £3 to Boot Hill, that he has a chance solo. But I think this is Boot Hill's to lose there, because if you think about it logically, what's appreciated now in the Supreme, what's he rated? In the 150s.
160s, I think.
160s. Like, this is the horse that was going to take on appreciated last year in the Supreme. Do you know what I mean? He's rated 136. I think he's definitely going to hopefully be a 150s horse over fences. If he is he an Arkle or a Marsh winner, I don't think so. But look, he might be there for a Grand Annual or a thing, but sure, the worst joke of all time. There's no novice handicap anymore. But he should be winning this if he's any good. And I think he'll win 13-8. Skinny enough, but I think he'll win because Mr. Coffee is a lunatic. 50 Ball was disappointing. Miller Trump is a northern, take it easy horse around. No one take him on. If once someone takes Miller Trump on, they'll beat it. Do you know what I mean? That's it, really. I think it's Boot Hill. If Boot Hill doesn't win, I'd be very disappointed.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, mate. The one thing that's worth mentioning with Boot Hill, though, like he does have, I think he's got dodgy knees, and it's not like Harry Fry to wrap up a horse in cotton wool, is it? But I just like with that, we'll see how we go. You haven't seen him jump a fence, but yeah, it's definitely Boot Hill's to lose. Definitely a bit too short, but oh well, it's the way that it is, isn't it? Then we've got another handicap chase after this. Now, you know me and handicaps, I wouldn't normally keep baffling on about them, but the 225, Fanny and Destraval was the single biggest eye catcher at Aintree. We were there that day, and we didn't people may not have seen it the first time round unless they were paying attention to how far back he was. But he was like the best part of a fence behind him in the home straight. And I know it's a long run at Aintree, but he was genuinely like 30, 40 lengths behind and flew in the finish to finish fourth. Now, this is a handicap. We don't really know how strong that run was at Aintree because obviously All Mankind, we just don't know he's going to do after. Itchy Feet, don't know whether he let it down behind Brave Man's Game, but you'd be disappointed to think that Itchy Feet actually ran to 155 at Haydock. So that makes me wonder whether Fanny and Destraval's mark is workable, but I think it probably is. I said after Aintree that I'd back him the next time he runs. I think this is probably an easier race than he could have got in over 2.5. So I think Fanny and Destraval, it's going to be another fab that I think it's got a good chance. But I think he's going to take all the beating. I think he'll be popular as well. Like he did open a bit bigger. He's 3-1 now. I don't think that's a terrible price. But I'm very reluctant because it is a handicap and I wouldn't normally get involved in these races for too much. I'm very reluctant to look at the rest of the field because I don't want to get put off him. If you know what I mean? Like I said, I was going to back him after the Aintree run and I don't want to find a reason not to back him. So it's Fanny and Destraval for me. What about you?
Yeah, two-hand reel for me, Dave. Fanny and Destraval. I don't know about that. Is it a case he doesn't like winning? Kind of a way with him. I don't know. I suppose technically the best form of the race is Phoenix Way. Hasn't been seen since the Grade 1 last year. Like you look at literally 8 Man was second in the Halton Gold Cup. Protectorate was second in the Paddy Power. So by default, this horse should be well handicapped off 144. Now, I was very deep in him after he barely won. He hunted in trial in the Pertemps. He never turned up, which annoyed the crap out of me that day. Look, the shunter, as we know, as I said before, previous to this glorified handicapper in a Grade 1 at the end of the season in the entry. If Phoenix Way wants to beat, but my problem with Phoenix Way is that when he jumped good enough at Newbury, first time out for a long time since the entry. So Fanny and Destraval's had a run. So to me, handicap wise, Phoenix Way should win. But if you're looking at today's horse, it should be Fanny and Destraval, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's part of the reason why we didn't want to delve into it is because the problem with handicaps is there's lots of horses that we've got some sort of affiliation to in the past, isn't there? And you know that they've probably got more than they're showing. Like Heritage is another one that he's just. I think Ruby Walsh classed it. He didn't say it about it. Paul Nichols said it when he was at the yard once. That Heritage suffers from loft syndrome, which is a lack of fucking talent, is what he said. They buy these horses for big money, and he's just a bit of a screwball. Like I backed him. I think must have been Badger Beer's meeting last year where he was in front and just idled and got picked up towards the end. It was just frustrating. But again, they're the sort of horses that could go and do it. Morning Vicar has got course and distance form, hasn't he? But I think it was at the meeting last year. He was like £11 lower rated. I don't think he's improved that much since last season. So I'll be fairly keen on Fanny and Destraval. But like you say, does he want to win all the time? Maybe he runs better fresh as well. So it's not really one to get too stuck into. But one we can get stuck into, the long distance hurdle, Grade 2. Paisley Park's back again. I'll let you go first on this because I want to say something after about Paisley and the competition that he's faced since he's been going into graded company. Because I keep going back and forth in my head about what to do with this horse. What do you make of the race and Paisley Park himself?
Paisley Park is finished. Should be over a fence now. 11 minute from the bringers chases. The second favourite in the Fatigal got all the allowances last day. No, for me. Very interesting runner, Paul Nolan. I really like this horse, Mrs. Miller. I think she's a good horse. There's something about her. To be honest with you, is she going to win a stairs hurdle? For me, no. But it's a 2.5 mile race in the mare's hurdle. That's the most wide open mare's hurdle in a long time. So I'd be keeping my eye on her. If she's beaten, it wouldn't bother me, to be honest with you. Would you believe now the horse that I fancy is the next stairs hurdle winner? And it's that's because of the ground, Lisnagar Oscar. It's £6 from Paisley Park. I know it's what 152.
Mm-hmm.
If Paisley Park is right, 152, £6. If Paisley Park's 158 horse, I said to you last week, if Itchy Feet beats Brave Man's Game, what I do. So it's to me, it's a 2-hand reel. No, Indefatigable will be there, but it's between Mrs. Miller and me and this girl. If you put a gun to bed, this girl.
Yeah, can't blame you, mate. So, like with Paisley, right? I was looking. Like everyone slags off the stairs hurdle or the stairs division, didn't they? Say that it's the worst division in racing. Like you want to be 2 mile, or probably you want to be Gold Cup trip, didn't you? Then maybe 2 mile chasing, then 2 mile hurdling, and then it's like the 4th division. But since he's been running in graded company, he's always taken up. Like there's always been something in the race that was at least 160s. But it first started off with Sam Spinner when he was on a bit of his decline. Obviously, went and beat Forheen in the stairs hurdle. So potentially the age that he was 11-year-old, then you can see on their way out. Beat Thistlecrack here when he was an 11-year-old. So admittedly was like lower rated than Thistlecrack, and Thistlecrack was getting the pull, but nah. Then he goes and beats If the Cap Fits at Cheltenham. If the Cap Fits doesn't like Cheltenham. Beat Apple's Jade when Dickie Johnson just went miles and miles clear. Then beat Sam Spinner. Sam Spinner is gone. Then Time Hill Roxana. When we look at that run, round, I'll say Sam Spinner when Sam Spinner's gone. That was in the Newbury race here where Time Hill beat. Then the Time Hill Roxana run at Ascot, like he looked, Ascot, sorry. He looked like he was, like it was a really good effort when it. Richard Johnson was fuming. I swear Richard Johnson wanted to retire that day. That made me think, you know what, maybe the horse is back. But with him being back, like, I don't know how good he's ever actually really been. Although he's been beating horses of high numbers, I think they're on the way down. Then you look at the stairs hurdle last year, well, this year, but last season. Florin Porter and Cider Verde were both 160 rated, and they came out on top of him. So it wasn't like unexpected that the two, like the second and third highest rated horses.
That was technically the worst stairs hurdle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Because if you look at the first 3 last year, right? Well, the first 2, the mind rest. Sorry, Paisley Park's the 3rd, right? Florin Porter, Sarah Burley, and Paisley Park. With the horses now that are going in the stairs hurdle, right? Will they be in the first 3 this year? Not on God's green earth. Not a hope. Because you've Classical Dream, Buzz, Abracadabra, Sporting John, all of them. They're going to be away with her. And I'm on Buzz.
Yeah, well, we'll leave him for another day. But the thing is, like Time Hill beat him at Aintree, Paisley was pulled up, and I think that was maybe a bit of a better race, but sort of new kids coming of age. Then we've had the Thomas Derby running that West Yorkshire hurdle where Indefatigable won. Paisley just looked like gone again. And I'm the same as you. Like, I feel like they should have sent him chasing before, after that first run, but they're probably thinking, let's just give him another go. It's a long season ahead. The one main thing to consider with Paisley Park, he used to be a hall that Emma Lavelle had to school over hurdles with another horse because he didn't like jumping on his own. And that was something that I was conscious of when he went from novice hurdling into his first season in open company. His first season novice hurdling, he ran at Cheltenham, and the excuse they used for why he was 54 lengths behind Kilbrook and Storm was that he didn't like the visor. He's never run in headgear since. They've now put cheek pieces on him, and we're about to trust that first-time cheek pieces is going to bring about improvement when the last bit of headgear was like completely and utterly stopped the horse. I feel like he's capable of winning this because he's only got to run to a 150s number to do it. But I just can't have him. I feel like he'll be better than last year's running the race because he's had the run before. But the cheek pieces and stuff puts me off. So I couldn't back him. I try and find something in behind to try and beat him, and I just can't have any of them. the one that you don't like at all, Indefatigable, that won the race the last day, like she had a prep run on the flat, so she was entitled to be a little more forward. I look at her and I think on the allowances and the weight that she's getting, like, is like Paisley going to be able to beat her after that? But then Paisley's going to give her £4 less, was only 5 lengths behind. And if the cheap pieces did work their magic, then you'd fancy Paisley to reverse the form. So, like, I'm completely mind screwed with what I would do in this. Like, I cannot have a bet in it. If the cheap pieces don't piss Paisley Park off, I think you might just win this, but it's a crap race and it doesn't mean anything for the rest of the season. He'll just get found out when Time Hill batters him at Ascot. But if the cheap pieces do balls up on Paisley Park, then I think Indefatigable could get away with another win. But it's pretty crap race, isn't it?
It's crap compared to last year. Yeah, crap.
So that was a long way to get around the house of doing it. But yeah, like, to be fair, as much as Paisley's gone on the decline and he's been beating horses that maybe were on their way out before, he's always faced something in the 160s. And on these terms, I know Thomas Darby's 155 rated, but he's given that £6. So that makes that a 161 horse. So in theory, he's still facing another one that's rated in around those numbers. Like, we'll see how Paisley goes, but sad to see him decline. Then there is a handicap hurdle towards the end of the race. I'm not interested in talking about that, to be honest with you. How about you?
Yeah, I really fancy one here. But the problem is, they leave you out to make shit of the form on Saturday in the Haydock race. But I like Hobbs here, and one for you. I'm going to try the yard last day in the Pertemps handicap qualifier. Off 1, 2, 3. If he wants to get into the Pertemps, he should be winning this. So he's 7-1. There's the favourites, Eye of the Scorpion, not for me. Polish, whatever his name, it will go well because he likes Newbury. Won a course and distance race there towards the end of the season last year. But no, one for you, for me, and I really fancy it. 7-1, get on each way.
Nice. I mean, now you've said something, I will just say the reason why I wanted to skim through this race, because there's tons in here that, again, I talk about the handicaps, but you get a bit of an affiliation for them, that I feel like they're much better. Dolphin Square, I think, could easily win off a 1-3-4. One for you would be one that was definitely on the short list. I love Polish as a horse, or Polish, whatever we're going to say it. The Cobb for Ben Paulin, like, I think he's a proper horse, and I can't believe he's the price that he is. Slate House, even with what's going on with the Tizzards, like, people will start making the case for him, wouldn't they? Scandyberg was supposed to be quite good, but I'm not really sure why it would have left Ollie Murphy, then go to Snowden, and then leave Snowden to go again. So a bit weird one, that one. But one for you, maybe that's the one to go for. Paul Nolan sends one over Fortune Street, didn't he? Just maybe quick mention for that. Is that literally just travelling with Mrs. Miller, do we think? Got no chance?
Oh, yeah, just keep Mrs. Miller company.
Happy days. Right. There's nothing else on Friday that I want to talk about. Are you happy to move on to Saturday?
Yeah, move on, yeah.
What we'll do maybe, because if anyone is still viewing it, obviously we're going to cover Newbury as well. We'll do Newbury just again, so that all the Newbury bits done at the beginning, then we'll skip on. What else we'll look at on the Saturdays? We'll look at Newcastle for a couple of races, and then there's a few potential interesting entries at Fairyhouse, so we'll quickly skim over them. I say quickly, we know how quick I am. And then we'll give our full undivided attention to the Grade 1 feast that is Sunday. Right, Newbury. First race is the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Now, this is always the same pretty much every year. There's horses that will take on each other that ran against each other earlier in Newbury. And it used to always just do my head in because I'd always think they're going to reverse the form. They very rarely do. But LS Bell reverses the form with Nina the Terrier for me. I need to see what the prices are. I was very tempted. I talked about doing a different betting strategy this year where I want to like steam into a couple. I was LS Bell, like I was never going to get the price I wanted as an entry point, but I was tempted to steam into LS Bell on that debut. Dan Skelton said since that he thought she was fit. She didn't have enough work, and she travelled so well, then just emptied with nothing. Now, often trainers, when a horse does that, travels and finds nothing, they just give him a wind up for the sake of it, don't they? They haven't done that with this one. So the fact that he said it's training, I'm happy to trust it. I thought she would have won that day. She didn't. Nina the Terrier beat her by 4 lengths and won quite nicely going away, to be fair to her. On that day, though, LS Bell was getting £8. In this occasion, she's £5 worse off and was beating those 4 lengths. So again, it's going to be very much price driven for me, but probably Nina the Terrier should just win, but I'm tempted to have a go on LS Bell, but it depends how big they price her. I think she'll be too short to back anyway. If she was 5-1 plus, for example, I'd be smashing her in the each way betting because there's 9 runners. If 8 stay in there, there's no way she's outside the first 3, but I genuinely think she'd win. What do you make of it? You love the girls' races.
I thought the last day was just a sprint to the finish, Dave. That's why you needed a Terra one. LA Bell, if it's a fast run race, she'll win. If it's not, Nina the Terrier will just win again because it just picked up like a good thing off a sprint. LA Bell jumped sketchy enough the last day, I thought, but if the quicker they go, the better she'll be. I would not discount her in the Mayor's Novice, even if she's beaten all year, because they go such a gallop in that Mayor's Novice in Cheltenham. It'll suit her down to the ground. And remember, she was third in the bumper last year. Now, third in the bumper where Blackmore set it up for Gerhard and Kilcrook couldn't fucking sprint home, like, do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of contradicting myself there, but...
Well, no, maybe not, because she's probably better than the bare performance then, isn't she?
Yeah, the quicker they go, LA Bellway. If they go a sprint, Nina Terror will win.
I like it. Well, again, like everyone's got their own different methods, haven't they? But I'm very price sensitive. So I'm hoping with all of that we said there, as much as lots of people I think are going to fancy her, I'm hoping the fact that she's £5 worse off, the bookies might just give us a bit of a price. And like I said, because there's enough runners in there, it's the sort of one where you couldn't go far wrong. Like I don't really like each way betting, but you'd be a mug if you didn't do that in there. So anywho, we will. I'll tell you what. There is one that we didn't talk about. Theatre Glory for Nicky Henderson at the bottom, but the fact that Nico de Boinville is sticking with a horse with no name, who was in that same race before, are we just guessing that the other one's got no chance?
Exactly.
Right, we'll go with that. Then we've got the John Frankham Novice Chase, Grade 2. This is a race that I like. So 3 mile Novice Chase. Again, it's potentially going to be a small field, but it is what it is. The right horses are there. T-Clippers entered in this, but it's going to run on Friday, we hope. Although if Tom Lacey watches the video, then maybe take my advice and see that he's £9 out. You probably won't win it. Step him up in trip before you send him to the Felton, but that's not going to happen. I don't rate Ahoy Senior in the slightest. Don't care what he did at the back end of last season. We know Aintree's Grade 1s are not Grade 1s. It'd be nice to see it get round this time, but I just don't rate the horse at all. Don't really rate Ashtown Lad. Flash Collonge, I think, will be miles better over a fence. Classic Nichols horse, 145 rated. Well, I think that's the one that will win the race. Mr. Incredible, though, right down the bottom. I know Mr. Carter put him up for the National Hunt Chase after his debut chase win. He's obviously coming over here now to run over a trip. Henry de Bromhead seemed, I don't know whether he's bullish about his chances, but obviously he's got a Claire de Rear coming over anyway. I think he may have a couple that run in the Ladbrokes Trophy itself. But Mr. Incredible, it didn't really do enough for me to make me think that he's going to be beating Flash Collonge here. But like a very interesting runner in there. So I'd be siding with Flash Collonge. What do you make of it?
If it comes over, Mr. Incredible will win, Dave. End of story. Move on. It's just a good horse. It looked well beaten the last day. It looked well beaten, right? And it's still won. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like I'd say it must have traded at least 50 to 1 running, jumped the second last in days. He'd 6 horses to best. It's still won. I know probably fell apart in front, probably went too quick. But Blackmore got way far back than she wanted to, and it's still won. Do you know what I mean? And it jumped reasonably well. It's just a crap race, Dave. You know, I Senior has been overhyped because it beat a non-stair in Brave Man's Game at Aintree. Brave Man's Game is not a 3 miler. Like, if you got a decent horse against Brave Man's Game on Stephen's Day, Boxing Day, I'd be taking it on because it'll jump well, but will it stay at 3 miles? I suppose I'm contradicting myself. The horse that I fancy in the King George is a non-stair over 3 miles, and hope Willie Munnins brings it over on Navajo. But no, Mr. Incredible will win, yeah. Big time.
Fair enough. Well, it'll be interesting again because I'm sort of price playing, aren't I? Like I'd hope that Mr. Incredible is going to be smashed up. I'd hope that he'd be a short price, and I'll end up getting a bit of a price on Flash Collonge because he's one of those horses from last season that I have a few marked down as horses to follow. Obviously, everyone does. This was a horse that I could not wait to be going over fences. And I'll be honest with you, he bled in that handicap at the end of the year. I didn't realise till after I'd read the result, maybe in the summer it was when I was compiling the list, but he bled. I watched the video back and he was idle when he was green in front, but he bled. And whether it was green, whether it was idle, or whether because of the blood vessel it burst at that point in the race, I don't know. Bleeders normally do put me off and they worry me a little bit, but there was I think there's loads of reason to upgrade that performance at Kelso. Admittedly, it was just a handicap hurdle, but I don't know. I think he could be all right over fences. So again, if Mr. Incredible does go smash him up, as much as the field may not be that great, it means Mr. Incredible's pretty good. Then we will move on to this Peter O'Sullivan Memorial Handicap Chase. again, it's another handicap chase that I'm not going to spend too much time digging into myself. Dublin 4-1 for the Fergal O'Brien, Graham McPherson partnership the last day. That's like almost via favouritism. I don't think that'll win twice. Of all the gin joints for Colin Tizard, like I still think this horse has got more off him than 134, but it's ridiculous to say that when he's been so pants for so long. Also, who's been pants for very long? Grand Sonsi. He's down to 139 now. I'm just hoping maybe Paul Nichols will have a bit of a day of it, but Kaluki's a horse that won for Philip Hobbs over course and distance here. I thought he would have been better than he was last season. His high may be high enough now, but I think he's got a bit of a chance. One that's probably more interesting just for what they're going to do with her for the rest of the season than anything else is Dame de Compagnie. She only had that one novice chase run last year. Then they run her at Punchestown in a handicap where she was fab and she was well beaten. She was post-race, she was abnormal, but she was backed into favourite for that day. She's like a 9-1 poke here. So if she did line up and she'd run, I'd imagine she'd be fancied. And, JP could be having a good bit of it for a couple of days. But it's a classic handicap. There's a few that you could make a bit of a case for. Wouldn't be surprised if any one of a handful maybe won it. But is there anything that you fancy?
Not really, Dave. Hopefully, I want Dame the company to lose because she's off 145 and I have her earmarked for a handicap at Cheltenham. Won the Curl Cup before. I agree with you. Grand Santi 139 if it jumps to surely win after 139. But move on after that. It's terrible.
Happy. Even the race after, to be fair, the handicap hurdle, there's a few horses.
Oh, I've one here now, Dave. I've one here.
Oh, but they could be double entered. So there's one in here that I really like, which is again, it's pretty similar to Fanny and Destravel. Like I just can't look at anything else. I want redemption from Cheaty Bello. I wanted him to run at Aintree in the race that Bruin Up a Storm run. He didn't run him. Cheaty Bello. Oh, and maybe it wasn't the Bruin Up a Storm race. Maybe they'd have meant it in a handicap hurdle. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I want redemption for Cheaty Bello. He's better than 147. Don't care if it's a handicap. I'm backing Cheaty Bello.
He won't beat LaCale's article in it, for instance.
He looked like he was going to be so good, didn't he? But he's been pants.
No, LaCale's article 125. Yeah, it's better than 125. It's not great, really, is it? It all depends who turns up, but it's LaCale's article for me if he turns up.
Yeah, I suppose the big line of form in that last run was Orby's Legends obviously come out and run real well this season. But he was 16 behind it. That's rated 1 through 8 now. I did quite like LaCale's article as a horse. He's got to be much better than what he's been shown so far, really. Anyway, enough talking about him. Then we've got the Jerry Fielden, where I don't think Monmoral is allowed to run because of his win in France.
He can't run them.
So
he's going for the fighting fifth, yeah.
That's it. So we can ignore that. But I know we get this like most years with the Jerry Fielden. There's a horse that looks like it's the one that's very, very obvious for it. And obviously when Champ won it a few years back, it just looked like it was an absolute gift. I think Epatante won the Jerry Fielden as well, to be fair to her. I know Soaring Glory's like short. He won the Betfair Hurdle, but obviously he's like up in ratings now. And I know they maybe want to see how much they can scare him over hurdles, but they need to get him over a fence. Metier was just so poor in that Supreme that like he's definitely going to have more to offer this season. Whether this ground is going to show that out of him or not, I don't know. But I'd be semi-interested in him, but it just looks a pretty non-interesting renewal, I think.
Yeah, Soaring Glory for me, the Newbury Betfair Hurdle winner. I thought he was impressive enough in Ascot the last day. My problem here is pace. He needs pace. He's be seen at his best. They went a right get up. Boot him when a right get up that day at Ascot. And Gowrow, Captain Morris nearly threw the race in Ascot last week. The one I would take on Soaring Glory with is one more for the road because Calderman won the last day. I don't know where it went, but it won. And one for the road was given it a penalty when it beat it at Stratford. So off 133 has a right chance because you'll get a stone and 2 off Soaring Glory. To be honest with you, if either win, fair enough, but I think it's between the two with Soaring Glory and one more for the road. Yeah,
it's interesting to see that Captain Morgs is jocked up because obviously he won the other. People dispute whether he would have won or not because of the jump of the last from Gary Claremont, but I think he would have won. I can see why they want to get him out running again quickly. Like he's always looked like a horse that could be much better than he's shown up to now. But I don't know. It's just one of them. I think a lot of them look quite exposed as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like Metier is probably the one horse in the race that I don't think is exposed, but he's rated 144, which maybe is too much for him to go and do it. But be a good race for watching. I think Metier is the one that we'll learn most about, because if he runs, I think if he runs well, he'll win it. If he doesn't run well, then he's either not going to run because of the ground.
He's soft grounded.
Yeah, and that's the thing with it. Like the weather's going to probably change by now into where they run on Saturday. If it does start going soft, then it makes horses like One for the Road not as attractive, maybe. So we'll have to see how it ends up. But so it'd be a good race for watching. But I just think we know enough about so many of the fields that typically this race, because they haven't got that much experience over hurdles, you have that progressive one that could go and do loads more. There's nothing in it, I think, that could go and do loads more. I think we know enough about them.
Keep going.
Right. So Ladbrokes Trophy time. It's a race, classic handicap, classic Dave's opinion. One of those, though, because it's a big handicap, I try and have my eyes on someone early in the season for it, or at least from the previous season. This year, I'm changing the way that I'm playing. I'm not so much looking at the early post punting, so I've sort of just swayed away from that. The one that I did fancy quite a lot last year was Danny Whizbang. He runs here a £10 lower mark, but he's left nickels, and he so it's got to be worth a stone being in that yard. Long and short of it is, it's a race I haven't delved into too much. I've looked at it nearer the time now to try and get a bit of an opinion of it. Market pretty much speaks for itself. And who are we to go against Willie Mullins sending one over? So I'm going to leave this in your capable hands, Jamie. Surely you can do the race better justice than I've just done.
I don't know about that, Dave. I have it down to 3, Dave. It's very unoriginal. Best in English is in Rillo. Didn't think he stayed in the old Whitbread, as I got it. Good race course gallop the last day. I suppose he is the best in English, and if he's the only two getting anywhere near the top two. My thing with Eclat the rear is a good jumper, but does it need soft ground? It's just my now I'm going against my prediction here, but I was there when on the ropes won the Munster National. He won in a canter, like he could have won by more. Do you know what I mean? Like that was a 1, 4, or 5 innings and the last day. So what? The 1, 5, 3, it didn't make a difference. Like you have to go back to the form. Like Monkfish was now for the season. We were talking Monkfish as a Gold Cup horse. The 5th, he was second. The 5th, and that Iscaria 10 was 3rd in the national chase. Next destination. Look what Gallivan's done. Do you know what I mean? So the form stacks up. So like Willie Mullins wouldn't be coming over for goodness for his health. One thing I will say, Gallop and Willie Mullins is obviously an issue. But he won in Limerick when no one knew about the Gallop, if you know what I mean. So I think he'll just win. I think he's well handicapped. The only thing is, he wants to be winning if you think he's a Gold Cup horse. Do you know what I mean? Like 153, he's going to go up another 5, 6, 7 pounds up to the 160s. He's going into the greater races then. Will he be good enough for the greater races? Time will tell. But no, if he's any good, he should be winning this. And yeah, he's a great price, 92.
Yep, and I think that's like different renewals of this. Like year after year, we get different depths in that over. Like the year that Native River won it was just a gift. It was like a 7-2 boat. Sometimes it does just pay that when you get the classier horses in it. I think it makes it a better renewal and it's nice. Some of the winners in previous years, not to disrespect them, have maybe won it because they have been weaker renewals. So like it's hard to get away from the ones towards the head of the market, really, isn't it? Like you can expect that maybe 1 or 2 of them could fall, but there's 3, like you mentioned there, Eclair de Rire and Rillo, and on the ropes. Like something's going to have to go well to go and beat the 3 of those. So I think we'll maybe leave it as that, and then we'll have a look and see if there's anything else for the rest of the Saturday. Well, there is. There's a handicap chase that's not even really worth looking at, other than mention that Gary Moore's got Nassalam entered in this. We know Nassalam runs in the other race. Nassalam's a 5-1 poker here, taking up a bit of the market. So maybe it's one of those races that if you are that way inclined to get stuck in a couple of days, well, a day before the declarations come out, this would be one for overnight to maybe have a look at. To be fair, by the time I publish this video, the declarations will already be out, so that's a wasteless bit of advice. We will go and have a... You don't fancy anything like that, do you?
No.
Boom. We'll get on with Newcastle because I want to give the grade ones at Fairyhouse on Sunday all of the time that they need. But there's one that I want to mention at Newcastle, and then we can quickly, well, if there's anything that you fancy, we can talk about them as well. But then I want to talk about, obviously, the fight in 5th, just for opinions. But the French Furs, which is a class 2, so it's not like the highest status of race anyway. There is a horse in here that I can't believe got beat the last day and wound me up. But partly the fact that it got beat the last day made me, like, not saying they weren't necessarily trying with the horse, but it just made me wonder whether they knew that the next run was the big day. Like, it wouldn't have made a difference if he'd have won, other than the fact that he would have carried a penalty for it.
Marvel fans.
Oh mate, I'm all over it. Like, if he had have won the last day, he would have carried a £5 penalty. So maybe he's £5 well in. But the horse, like, genuinely, he could have won that race as far as he wanted. He needs to be like up with the pace. That's the way that he's like typically runs a race. He's not a horse that's too keen. You have to worry about him or anything like that. They left him out the back. And I know that there's comments that he was hampered at the first and they dropped to the last after the third, all those sort of things. But they left him out the back on purpose so that he'd have too much to do and he might not get there. But you couldn't get told off for leaving him. Like, this horse would have absolutely bolted in. The extra step up in trip doesn't bother me in the slightest. I think he's I think he's probably a good thing, to be fair. There might be something in there that's a bit unexposed. Maybe this Mr. Glass, everyone's raving about that, saying that they could be potential worldies. But I like Marble Sands enough in his own right anyway. I liked his bumper form. I'll definitely be backing Marble Sands in it. Have you looked at the race?
Yeah, but no interest.
Which is probably the right way to be. It's another one of those. It depends how much it cuts up, because I think it'll be a small runner affair. There will not be any each way value in there, and it depends what they price him up. But I'll be happy to take on some of the shorter price ones in Marble Sands, hopefully. So do we just move straight down to the fighting fifth, last race on the card?
Oh yeah.
I'd love to know your thoughts on Epitan.
It should win, Dave. It all depends on the back surgery works or not. Like, she jumps like she did last year, like, even when it looks like a steal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't fancy Monmirail. I just don't. I don't like 4-year-olds going up against. It's like, this is a speed track. Now, I know all the races last year, Monmirail ran on flat tracks, speed tracks, Haydock, E3. How is Monmirail a pound officially rated less than a champion hurdler? Right, that is ludicrous. Ludicrous. I suppose the horse said, obviously, on good ground, has a chance, and they got unlucky last year with Sco Royal. But, like, if Epitant is any good and wants to go anywhere for the season, it should be winning this. Like, but will it win a champion hurdle? Not in God's green earth. No chance.
Yeah, and it's like, I think it is key to talk about, like, the fact that last year things didn't work out for, obviously, Silver Streak got carried out very early in the race as well. Things didn't work out for So, really, because he was just left out in front to do all the donkey work. It's definitely an interesting renewal. Like, I'd give Silver Streak a bit of a squeak, although the fact that, like, based on the fact that he got spanked by So the last day, you couldn't really give him any chance at all. But then I don't know whether maybe, like, he wasn't 100% that day, whereas So was fully wound up. But I guess we'll find out after. I'm with you on the Monmirail camp, although he is 1 4-year-old that they've kept hurdling, which I like, because I don't really want him to be going over fences as 5. I know Nichols does like to get his ones chasing earlier, but, like, he's not going to be his best over hurdles. We know that for a fact. But I do think he's one of the more recent juveniles that I think can probably keep tabs with the 2-mile division, especially over here, because it is so weak in it. Like, we're relying on Epitant surgery to have done her justice. But other than that, he probably isn't too far behind some of the other ones. But like you're saying, on that rating that he's £5 inferior to So Royal and Silver Streak. So Royal, we know, is coming in absolutely rude health. Like, it's going to be hard for him to do it in this class of a race, isn't it? I just can't have Epitan. I couldn't really have her when she won the champion hurdle. I know she gets excuses. She won this race nicely last year, but everything just fell on the plate for her, didn't it? So I was like trying to think of a way of taking her on. Again, it's 7 runners rather than 8. Not that I massively bet each way, but Silver Streak was 7s. I would have been tempted to maybe have a go on him each way, because I wouldn't think there'd be 3 in front of him. But maybe I'll look to see if there's any extended place races. I think like, Epitant should win it, shouldn't she? With the mares and, like you said, the champion hurdler, the rating that she is, all those bits and pieces. But I just couldn't have her. But then I think this is why she's pretty much an even money price, for the reason that for every 50 people you speak to, there'd probably be half people like me saying can't have her, and then there'd be other half like you that if she is as good as she was or anywhere near it, she'll dot up. So someone's going to be happy, aren't
they? Exactly.
But there's no champion hurdle winner in this field. We're agreed, aren't we?
No, definitely not.
What's Monmirail got to do to make you think that he has got the ability? Like, if you say you went to won this on the bridle, the way that Epatante won it last year. But he beat So Royal, Silver Streak, and Epatante. Like Epatante's flop, we can forget about it. But even if he beats So Royal as a yardstick, what's he got to do as a 4-year-old to impress you? Like, how far has he got to win it by?
It doesn't matter how far he wins, he won't beat Honeysuckle.
Okay, that's the best way of introducing ourselves into Sunday, because Sunday at Fairyhouse, it is just absolute grade 1 porn. The only negative spin on it this year is, like it's been talked about plenty, that Willie Mullins hasn't had as many runners at this point in the season that he normally would have. I think not so much for the open grade ones, because they are established chasers or established hurdlers. I think for the novice hurdlers, I'm massively taking some of the performances so far with a pinch of salt. We'll get onto one of those horses in particular, but I just think that as much as they are grade 1s in name, maybe they're going to slightly fall into more like the Aintree category, where they're probably more a grade 2 in reality. But we'll get onto that anyway. The juvenile hurdle, the grade 3, I haven't looked too much at the juvenile races over in Ireland so far. Again, more than anything, I don't really like the juvenile races before Christmas, or at least before that period. And I like to be steered more a bit by what Mullins is doing. I know it's quite lazy. I know Gordon Elliott as well had some out early last season and it worked for the Triumph, but I'm still a fan of it before, where it used to be you don't see him till nearer the time. Anywho, Phil Dawes should be dotting up in this, shouldn't he? Is there anything else in the race that could be quite good, or not really?
I suppose if you think I suppose the form is stacked up, because Hildor was second to In This World in France, in Royan, Le Hammer, wherever it's called. Then In This World won the last, was it Weatherby? Wait, Warwick won the other and won by 6 lengths on the bridle, right? My only crib with Fieldor is that it got its own way the last day in Down Royal, and it was soft ground. It was soft ground, you know what I mean? And it jumped well, but there was no gallop, do you know what I mean? So he could be up against a few flat horses here. Max May, Lunar Power impressed me the last day, right? Well backed. And there's the other one, 6 feet apart. There's another one for just over right. If he goes as slow as he did last day, he'll get caught for toe from one of them. He will. I'm just telling you, he will. But the only thing is that if you look back in his race in France, it was good to stop when he lost In This World, so he probably goes on the ground anyway. He looked like a monster at downright. He did. No, in fairness, he's a fine, big, grey strapping horse. I'd be disappointed if he was bait, but would I be shocked if he was beaten? No.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's one of those sorts of races, isn't it? But because we don't know enough about plenty of the horses, we'll find out a bit more when they come up against each other later on in the season. But as it stands at this point, he could still dot up, and he could still dot up against horses that are going to end up being no good anyway. So it'd be one of those that I'll obviously have to watch him to see how he gets on. Half of me would like him to get beat just because it makes it easier to put a line for him and say he's just no good. But obviously, if he goes to dot up, you have to start taking a bit of attention, didn't you? But be a race for watching. I'd hope there'll be something in behind, because obviously we've got the Boodles to think about later on in the season, didn't we? So
yeah,
hopefully there'll be something we can keep an eye on. Then we have got the Royal Bond Novice Hurdle. This is the race where I've got one in here where I just can't get on board with him. Everyone's going to poo-poo me for it, but I don't care. I don't like my mate Mozzie. I say this out loud because if I was given the chance to own him or to have him as my horse or anything like that, you'd love it, because he's going to be a good 140s, maybe pushing 150s horse, I think, by the end of the season. But I just don't have him as the worldie that I think everyone else is seeing. And we talk about it lots with the heavy ground, don't we? That some horses shine on heavy ground, but potentially they shine on it because other horses aren't handling it so much. We talk about less with that with good ground, that they're doing it on such good performances because the others aren't handling it so much. But you just tend to get less of the good horses that always go out on the good ground. So, I mean, the ground's probably going to be very similar on Sunday. He may well go and dot up in this again, but I'm very reserved with my Mate Mozzie. I do not see this horse in the slightest being a Supreme Hurdle winner, but happy to be proven wrong. There's nothing in the race really that, from a punting perspective, I'd want to take him on with. Admittedly, he's 6-4, and you'd think I'd want to oppose him a bit, but the 2 Gordon Elliott runners, Mighty Pot, 3 Stripe Life, look like the obvious ones to take it on with, but I wouldn't want to back either of them. Arctic Warrior, being the brother to Arctic Fire, I've talked about the sibling thing before, and he put me off a little bit, but he's got potential to be good. I think that statuaire of Willie Mullins, to be fair to her, she could be all right. The jockey that rode her the last day, don't want to be rude about anyone, although I'm always rude about people. It's one of those where he sat on a Willie Mullins hot pot. He's got towards the last. He's thinking, I've got bundles underneath me here. They've jumped last. She said, I'm still in a bloody horse race. Like, she still made him have to get after her. But I think she had loads left under the bonnet. I just don't think the jockey gave her as good a ride as the winning margin would suggest, and the fact that it won at a short price. So I think she's got loads more to come. But yeah, like I probably wouldn't be brave enough to be punting her before we see the final declarations. But if she's still in the field, she's a 16-1 poke now. I'd be semi-tempted to say that, and again, maybe each way is play. But on the good ground, my mate Mozzie should probably dot up, but I just think it's clueless for the rest of the season. How do you see it? Am I wrong about my mate Mozzie?
You aren't, Dave. I suppose he won good ground last day in Navan, do you know what I mean? And Booth and Boy was probably just the outsider of the Elliott horse, and he looked like the only horse that was going to beat him up the straight, and he fell at the last. Chemical Energy is further, right? Mighty Potter won by 29 lengths by default in Down Royal, but like the form with the Greek, is it the fella second last? Like, he can't win a race. If I think he's in the wrong race, but if Three Stripe Life is any good, he should be winning it. Fourth in the bumper, I go back to LA Bell, Sir Gerhardt, Gilles Crott. They're all there. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that bumper, hopefully, is good form. If he's any good, but is he quick enough is the problem. Where, see, Punchestown is a speed track. My mate Mozzie, let's get a soft lead. If he gets a soft lead, like, who's going to go past him? If Three Stripe Light goes with him, maybe, but I could just see, you know yourself, see my mate Mozzie just go up in front and catch it, do you know what I mean, kind of a way, and just even give a soft lead. He doesn't get a soft lead, Three Stripe Light.
Yeah, and this is obviously like a nice race for going forward, but again, like, we might get it. We may just have good ground all season. It's happened before, but it's like, typically you'd imagine this would have been good to soft, even maybe soft some years, and then you'd see maybe like a different prediction, even if it was the same horse in the running. But Three Stripe Life, you are right, is probably the one that, if it went and won this, you look back and just say he was the most obvious one to be on. Did nothing wrong when he won it before, obviously, because that. It's by design they sent him to Fairyhouse the first time round, I think, because I agree with you, like, maybe wants a bit further, maybe wouldn't be 100% suited to this track, but, you know, got the job done, didn't he? And they've done that for a reason. So I would say that he's probably the stronger of the two Elliott horses. It would be a good race, wouldn't it? But I'm just hoping my mate Mozzie doesn't just dot up again, because everyone's rimming him, and I just don't think he's that good. It's important you just mentioned about that Elliott horse that fell as well, because I've watched the race back since, but a couple of people messaged me and said that would have at least got close to him.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it as that, I guess. Then we've got the Drimore Novices Chase. There's an absolute abundance of horses in here that I've always liked. Fury Road was delayed going chasing. Midnight Run's a horse that, again, he's a 7-year-old, so he's probably been a little bit delayed going into his chasing. Lifetime Ambition, Jesse Harrington mentioned him before he ran on Racing UK, saying that he'll basically win the race that he went and won. So obviously it was a very good performance, potentially going to step forward from it and do well, but it doesn't look an absolute vintage Drinmore, probably for the fact that there's no good Willie Mullins horse in the race. That's an easy one to say. I've always liked Beacon Edge as a horse. I think he's better than some of these over hurdles anyway. So if I was forced gun to the head to have an opinion in the race, I'd be going for Beacon Edge. But again, it's another one of those that, as much as it's a 2.5 miler, I just don't think it's going to be enough information or enough clues towards the spring festivals. Like, it's a grade 1 in name, but I don't think it's a grade 1 in nature. How do you see it, mate?
I really don't want Gabby Nacco to win, even though it beat Fury Road last day. I really don't want it to win because I've my eye on him, obviously, for a certain race at Cheltenham. But because he had the run the last day, I think that's why he beat Fury Road. So I'm going to put up, I don't know why I'm putting up, but I'm going to put up Fury Road, because Fury Road 7-1. You get 8 runners, second to last day, Tim, and I think it has a right chance. And honestly, the other only horse I fancy is in the same colours, and that's Fire Attack, because that horse's potential to burn, in my opinion. I think it needs a bit of good ground. So I'll take on Gabinacco, and I'll go Fury Road each way and Fire Attack each way. Now, which one is it's up to yourself, but I think Fury Road will get much closer to Gabinacco this time. Beautiful.
So there's 4 Gigginstown horses in it there. They may all run, because we know Gigginstown will do it, but between the two of us, we put up 3 of them. Go on, the Gigginstown. Oh, one thing that is worth mentioning, no one will be watching this far through for the video anyway, but screw them. Anyone that is watching, happy days, you're on for a good thing. We talked about Noble Yates maybe getting into the 2 mile 6 handicap chase didn't get in there because they gave it 142. It was a 0 to 140 race. Conveniently on Sunday at Cork, he ran him in a 2 mile chase. He needs like 2 miles 6 minimum. He needs 3 miles probably. Ran him in a 2 mile chase. And I said to them, a couple of my mates, they're literally just running him to try and get his mark down. And I saw people were backing him and steaming into him, getting tipped up left, right, and centre. Goes off 13 to 8 fave. And then I thought to myself, like, I don't fancy it to win. Let's look through the rest of the runners to see if I can find the winner. Went through all 7 of them. I just couldn't make a case strong enough for any of them to back against him. And I couldn't be bothered to lay him at like 8 to 13. There's just no value, is there? So I just left the race alone. But it happened. He got battered, beaten favourite, hasn't been dropped in the mark, but they're definitely eyeing up a conditions race where it's a 0 to 140 to go and dot up with him. So as soon as Noble Yates gets in a handicap over a trip, we've got to get on him with.
100%, yeah.
Beauty. Anyway, that was sort of aligning with Gavin Aker. That's what brought me up. We'll swerve through the handicap chaser. That's all right. We'll just get on with the Hatton's Grace.
Yep.
So my stance on it, because it'll be fairly quick. Latest exhibition's just having a go about, so irrelevant. Abracadabras, the trip's probably ideal for him. They've waited to run him in this. I think the ground's probably going to suit him as well. Like, I think Abracadabras could run a pretty big race, but obviously it's Honeysuckles to lose. Classical Dream, his important performance at Punchestown was so good because it was over 3 miles. And we talk about, I mentioned it earlier, didn't I, that it's the 4th division of like racing. So when you get someone that goes and dots up in a stairs race, like, I'm always reluctant to take it literally. So of course he's got a chance, and he's a proper horse. It's Willie Mullins, but I think he's like, if he's a 4 to 1 poke, then Honeysuckle should be 3s on rather than a 2s on poke. Saudi is a horse that I like, and Saudi is another one that like has thrown up some performances in his past, like a Classical Dream. No, he's got the ability. Wouldn't be surprised if he did it, but I would be surprised if he won on Sunday. So my stance on it is that Honeysuckle's as good at 2 mile as she is over 2.5. But obviously, as they get older, stronger, all those bits, this 2.5 miles going to suit her even more. She just dots up, I think, in this race. But Abracadabras would be the one that I'd fancy for a bit of each way value. 12 to 1 about him, I think, is reasonable. And I'd be tempted, because they keep holding it back, and I'm pretty sure this is where he's going to run. I know you maybe lose a bit of the, like, you'd lose a bit of the value if he doesn't run here and you've lost the prize, because obviously you lose your bet. But you're going to get each way first 3 here. This race could cut up a little bit. Like, I know plenty will probably run, but there could be less than 8 runners. You get first 3 a place. I think Abracadabras each way would be the bet in there, but it's all about honey, isn't it?
Oh, it is, Dave. 100%. It's all about honey. But look, what I'm hoping is that Willie Mullins runs Stormy Ireland to get a good pace. And if it's a good pace, as you said, 12 to 1 Abracadabras has to be the bet of a lifetime each way. As you said, Classical Dream thinks going in for a bit of a poke could end up, Classical Dream. He's either absolute crap or he's an absolute superstar. You know what I said? Salde, no, it's just not good enough at this level. I know it was great weight, current performance in the Galway Hurl, but nah, not for me. His exhibition, having a little poke before I go into the Stairs Hurl. But 12 to 1 each way, Abracadabras against Honeysuckle has to be a bit. Has to be a bit, because it's 2.5 miles. If you think Buzz is going to win the Stairs Hurl, you think Abracadabras has to have a chance here. I know there's a difference. He's 158. He still has to get 7 pounds to make up on Honeysuckle. Has to give away 7 pounds, which is 14 pound, but it'll be there. He'll travel into the race like a good thing, and if it'll go past, he goes past. But you know him, does he go past? That's another thing.
And I think they'll be riding for a placement, won't they? Because the main interesting I find with them is, like, this race, although it's 2.5 miles in its nature, and there are lots of staying horses in it, like you said, I think they're going to go quick. It will probably feel a bit more like closer to 2 miles than it would a 3 mile race, which, because Abracadabras is better over a trip, I think could play against him. But if you go back to the Champion Hurdle, he was sent off 10 to 1 in there. Admittedly, he fell in the race, but he was sent off 10 to 1 in a Champion Hurdle at Cheltenham with Honeysuckle in the race. And you can get 12 to 1 about him in a race like this over a trip that probably suits him more. Like, he's just the wrong price. And he'll be the wise guy bet as well. He'll go off second fab, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anyone else to mention at Fairyhouse?
No, that's it there.